It's time now for a look at the latest in local news. In the news, we've more from Tuesday's Wayne County Board of Education meeting, in which at first the board voted 3-2 against the first reading of their proposed budget, but after an executive session voted to rescind the 3-2 vote, then voted 3-2 in favor of the proposed budget. Board member Tina Mosley changing her mind, and instead of voting against the first reading, voted in favor, along with members Sharon Daniel and Bruce Harris. Board members Todd Wise and Kerry Yarborough voted no both times against the proposed budget. During the discussion phase of the budget, board member Kerry Yarborough asked CFO R.J. Aldridge if this budget would mean an increase in taxes or the millage rate, and here was the CFO's response.
Current plan, the way we set it up, we are set it up for no increase. We set it up for a rollback. Let me rephrase that. We're anticipating, based on everybody that we've been hearing from, property values are going up. When the official digest comes from the tax commissioner, it will state what the entire digest is, and then it will give us a calculation that says to keep the same property tax value, the property taxes as the previous year, you would need to do X number of dollars as a rollback rate, and it will state what that rate would need to be. Our budget is set up for us to do the rollback rate. That is the projection revenue that I'm working off of, is to do the rollback millage rate. Not to do the slight increase. I say it was a slight increase. What we did the previous year, it is to do the rollback just like because of the values going up. Absolutely. That's the way it was set up to do for this year.
Can I share something with you?
Yes.
Last year, my 100% appraised value of my home was $127,220. The current year fair market value appraised, 100% appraised, is $186,794, an increase of $59,574. Has nothing to do with millage.
That is correct.
Period. That's just the valuation of my home. 40% assessed value is $50,888, and the current year is $74,718, an increase of $23,830. Has nothing to do with the millage. But what this will do is, like you were saying, when we get the information from the tax, we can't do anything until we get that information. Once we get that information from the tax assessor's office, she will specifically tell us how much we need to roll it back. Am I correct?
That is correct.
In order for it to stay the same.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
so that there's no increase.
We kind of have a unique budget. I think us and the city kind of have the same situation. We are having to budget before we get that. So we kind of have to have some discussions of the feelings of the board and where we think we're going to lay that out. And we're really trying to lock in the budget before that formally happens. Flip side of that is, for instance, like the county's kind of on the other side. Theirs is behind that, so it's on the opposite side of that cycle. So it's just a weird circumstances. It can't be helped. It's just when our school year ends. So I usually always, that's one of the first questions I always ask Dr. Kelly. I said, go ahead and maybe let's try to have some discussions. Listen, most of the time it's always, yes, we want to at least do the rollback. That's kind of anticipated where we usually try to start. And so that's where I started. And then once I kind of got everything laid out, I felt like it was doable under those circumstances. So absolutely, we're anticipating the values going up. We're anticipating, based on what some of the rollbacks that I've seen the last year or two that have come from her on what those amounts were, I'm anticipating probably a meal or better rollback at a minimum. I would be shocked if it's not, just for the fact of how much I've been hearing the property values going up.
Once again, those comments of Chief Financial R.J. Aldridge from the Wayne County Board of Education, again stating he sees a rollback in the millage rate of at least 1 mil or more. At the 5 o'clock meeting on Tuesday, there was time allotted for public participation. We have two people who addressed the board. First, County Commissioner Jamie Hickox.
This body said, no, we cannot do this without increasing your property taxes. When you talk about a millage rate, our millage rate has stayed the same for blah, blah, blah. I have yet to meet one human being that has gotten their property tax bill and opened it up and said, oh my God, let me find out what the millage rate is. Because they don't pay anything in millage. They pay it in dollars. So when the millage rate didn't get rolled back, it is a tax increase. You had one payer In the 2024 school year, that was $500,000. On top of that, you had a tax increase of $500,000 1 year. And now you have a budget that is $6 million over budget. That's not a budget. That's not a budget. I drive a 10-year-old car because that's what I believe I can afford. Because I have to have a savings account because you never know what's coming down the road. You don't know. For these 5 elected officials to go, hey, I'm good with train wrecking our savings account in 3 years is not okay. That's all I can say.
Again, those were the comments at the Tuesday meeting of Commissioner Jamie Hickox. Also asking questions of the board was Jimbo Boykin, Steele and Crane, asking how the board plans to pay for that proposed $6 million increase in the budget.
You got a rollback, but you're still dealing with a $6.5 million increase. Question number one, what is driving the $6.5 million increase? Is it fuel cost? Is it all just payroll, health insurance? There's got to be an itemization or breakdown of what's causing that. That's never been asked in the last couple of years if we've not done our due diligence in asking these serious questions. So what's driving the increase? Number two, and most important, can we answer Mrs. Hickox's question? Are you going to take that out of the fund balance? Is that how we're going to pay? Because I understand, I'm with you. My property tax doubled last year. It doubled. I got another assessment just a couple weeks that was not very positive. These are two completely different entities. Not everybody understands that. But like Mrs. Hickox said, people look at it in cash dollars. So are you guys saying in 2024, when I pay my tax bill for this year, am I going to pay more in property taxes this year than I did last year, or the same or less? Forget about the rollback. You got to do a rollback. But how much rollback? And my question being is, are you taking the money out of the fund balance to cover it right now? Because as she's saying, if that's your case, I'm just asking, that's y'all's plan, you tell me, but you've got a long-term consequence with that if you're doing that over time. Because next year, I'm sure you're not going to say we're going to have a $7 million increase next year, are you? I mean, I've never seen that happen. Have you been sharing? You've been here a long time, right? So at some time, you're going to have to pay the fiddler, correct?
Correct.
So that's my point. So the question is, how are you going to fund this $6.5 million? You're telling people, don't worry about the assessments. I get that. But how are you going to fund that, folks? That's what you 5 people are responsible for. How are you going to fund that now, not only now, but next year and the year after that?
And once again, those questions asked by Jimbo Boykin. R.J. Aldridge, again, the Chief Financial Officer, says that this proposed budget is a worst-case scenario.
The budget is worst-case scenario. When we're budgeting for the amount of people that we're trying to budget for, when we're in the process of working on this, we still have quite a few positions that are still technically vacant, that there's not actually a person in that position yet. So we try to be conservative when we budget. If you were looking at their normal pay scale, we try to shoot for somebody in the middle with about 10 years of experience is kind of how we budget for our certified personnel. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time when we actually usually hire somebody this late in the cycle, they're usually new people coming out of school, maybe 1 or 2 years of experience at the very most. They would be a much lower on the normal pay scale. So what was budgeted for that individual was higher in salary, retirement, insurance will be the same, pay doesn't affect insurance. So we're a little bit on the high side on that as far as the budget goes compared to the actual person that ends up going into that position. We do that to make sure that we're covered, because every now and then you'll have a rarity where you have an experienced person and you want to have some build up. I've been here 4 years. We've done a budget every year that I've been here. We have not spent what has been in not one of our budgets to this day. We have always been underneath that budget. The budget that was from last year did have about $17 million in fund balance. I'm projecting it to close out this year at about 16.5. So I'm projecting right now only about $500,000 loss. That's the actual fluctuation. The forecast would be if everything went awry. I will say this, in those 4 years I've been here, I believe we've overdone the revenues almost every year too. I usually try to keep them on the low side. When I put the amount in here for property taxes, usually the budgeted revenue is a little bit under what we usually actually get between the automobiles and, whatever. I always try to build, I don't like to be on the high side on the revenue, because when you start spending money and you don't meet that revenue goal, then you're going to be in trouble. So I was taught a long time ago, we try to keep the revenues reasonable where we think they're going to be, and obviously our goal is always, if the revenues are more, that's a good thing for us. And we want our expenditures to be inside of the budgeted expenditures, and we have been.
And once again, that part of the Tuesday discussion concerning the proposed budget, again, only the first reading of the budget has been approved. The board meets again on Tuesday, June 25th, and on that date at 5 p.m., there'll be time again for public participation, asking more questions to the board about the proposed budget. But then at 6 p.m., the meeting, and the board plans to vote and approve the proposed budget again at that June 25th meeting. And there'll be two meetings, one at 5 for public participation, then the regular meeting at 6 p.m. WIFO will continue to follow the story as it develops. We'll be back with more news after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. In other news, today marks 4 weeks since the death of 8-year-old Noah Bush, and WIFO family continues to follow the story, and we anticipate arrest and charges once the Wayne County Sheriff's Department concludes its investigation and receives the results of all the tests that are being performed concerning the death of Noah Bush. We continue to talk with Wayne County Sheriff Chuck Mosley. They tell us as soon as something can be released, we'll receive it, and in their last press release, it closed with the following statement: when the investigation is complete, any charges to be made will be appropriate to the evidence that is obtained. Once again, the Wayne County Sheriff's Department asks that the public be patient. They state some of these tests being requested is a timely process. They state that they want to maintain the integrity of the case, and the Sheriff's Department states that the immediate family has been talked to on a regular basis. What information can be given to them has been given. Once again, we'll continue to follow the story as it develops. Again, a tragic story, but again, today marks a month since the young boy's death, and still everyone waiting for the next official statement from the Wayne County Sheriff's Department. The Wayne County Commissioners have a work session set for today at 1 p.m. at the County Commissioners Meeting Room to discuss the election board and fire, all that today at 1 p.m. City of Jesup's newly renovated pool at Cracker Williams will be open this Saturday from 11 to 5 p.m. Grand opening and ribbon cutting ceremony is set for a later date. Fees to use the pool have been set for $5 for everyone. Season passes are also available. $60 for individuals, $85 for a couple, and a family of 4, a pass for $120. Water aerobics and swimming lessons will be offered soon during the morning hours. Pool hours will be Monday through Friday from 1 to 5 p.m. and Saturdays from 11 to 5. Closed on Sundays. For more on the pool and all the rates to rent the pool for parties, simply call City Hall at 912-427-1313. We'll be back with some final news notes after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Final notes of news: an important community blood drive coming up on Monday, June 17th at Calvary Baptist Church Gymnasium from 1 to 6 p.m. Red Cross stresses that these blood drives during the summer months are crucial for the area. Ask if you have the chance to give the gift of life, a pint of blood. They ask you please schedule an appointment. Go to the website, redcrossblood.org, enter Jesup, or you can call the Red Cross at 1-800-733-2767. Again, the date, Monday, June 17th, from 1 to 6 p.m. at Calvary Baptist Church Gymnasium. Chamber of Commerce currently selling tickets to their annual Legacy Dinner. That's scheduled for Thursday, June 27th at 6 p.m. at the Barn at Live Oak Ranch on Lanesbridge Road. Semi-former attire. Tickets are $75. Simply stop by or call the Chamber at 912-427-2028. Annual passing of the gavel will take place from current President Mark Watson to incoming President Preston Groover. Also, the announcements of the annual awards: the Ambassador of the Year, Small Business of the Year, Business Leader of the Year, the Excellence in Agriculture Award, and the Distinguished Service Award winner. All that Thursday, June 27th at the Barn on Lanesbridge Road, 6 p.m. If you need more information or tickets, call the Chamber, 912-427-2028. That's going to do it for latest in local news. Sports coming your way in a few minutes. Bob Morgan, have a great day.